We had a chance to play some games related to the issues of migration and generally how refugees are treated in the countries they escape to. So I have a few questions here, but I would preface it with my own opinion of this, because those games were really great, especially Papers, Please. It was really, working as a border patrol officer and actually refusing those people who seek asylum, it really changed my opinion based on those games. Can we compare the experiences of crossing various borders? I think we can, because in some way it's the same very thing. It's people seeking asylum and being denied the asylum, and people seeking alternative ways to get into the countries. However, every single instance has its own differences, and I cannot deny that there are some of them. I think that by using games, I think it's a superior medium to any other. By using games, we can actually get into the mind of the refugee, get into the shoes of the refugee, and walk through the difficult path of getting into another country by ourselves. And I think it's a really life-changing experience, especially for those that may not that will not ever experience it. And I think it's an appropriate medium. And I think that the purpose of those games is to let the people who don't know how it is in the other countries escaping to the other, how it feels, how difficult it is. It's to basically broaden our empathy towards others.
From where I stand, incorporating fun with education, such as incorporating educational facts or, history in games, in my opinion, is a great way to target the main audience, which is Generation Z with games. Because with Generation Z, we have that problem that it's very difficult for us to focus for a significant period of time. We need dopamine to function. We really have short attention span. So games are great because every game is different, and at every single stage of game, we encounter new things. We encounter new hints, new colors, new board, or new people in games, which is engaging. So we are engaged and at all times. So that is really great. And games are, in my opinion, for young generation, better than newspapers, medias, TV, even better than social media, because in social media we have this tendency to scroll, so endless scrolling. One reel, not really our cup of tea, so it's endless cycle. So with games it's good because we click new game and it's engaging. It's not boring because colors pop out and it's really good. Plus, when it comes to the experience and emotions, many people would think that games do not give us or manifest any emotions, which is wrong, because with games it is very easy to manifest emotions. We can include dialogues like with Papers, Please, or we can include various of things like the corpse of people in borders. So that was really great. Plus, it achieves its purpose, in my opinion. We've been informed about the situation, about the struggles, about the history, and the effect is that we look at things differently. I look at things way differently than I looked before. As I said, newspapers are not really our cup of tea, so games are really good way to inform people about the current situation and not ridicule, because none of those games ridicule the situation. Quite the contrary, it gives us the great manifest of current problems, which is really positive.
Taking migration into consideration, we can compare the experiences of crossing various borders. We always can compare. However, each border presents distinct challenges influenced by regional policies and histories. While playing games concerning migration, We can feel like migrants. However, games can evoke empathy and give insight into migrant struggles, but we cannot fully replicate real life experiences of them. But games are a different and some kind of more interesting medium of explaining such an important topic, because I think that a lot of people are bored with all the movies and books, and games are just different a little bit. And what's more, these games aim to educate and foster empathy about migration issues. They aim to create a more informed public discourse around these issues, and also such medium of representing is migration issues is different than the others due to its interactive way of engaging with the problem. With migration narratives, it offers a unique perspective. Games can complement traditional media by making this experience more personal and immersive.
I would say that when it comes to games that are about migration and migrants, they approach the topic, a very difficult one, in a plethora of different ways. I would say that Papers, Please in particular is a game that doesn't really let us feel like people who are exposed to such situations. We get to observe them from the side, but the setting of the game does not really allow for any sort of a personal connection to anyone other than the protagonist, which is obviously a border guard. When it comes to the waiting game and the border games, they definitely allow you to feel the frustration, the fear that people in this sort of life circumstances might feel. And the waiting game in particular, showing you stories that take place in the real world, allows you to feel this frustration, this fear, this anger, and obviously the fear for your own life. And they show you how terrifying the odds really are, that only a very small minority of people make it, and even they take hundreds of days, often years, to achieve their goals. But I feel like those games are threading a very thin line, and it is really easy for games that tackle this topic to come across as insensitive or as a bastardization of the issues of real people. The ones that we got to experience didn't really have that issue, but I think it's something that is very important to keep in mind if one wants to make a representation of this medium. Because it's one thing to see a movie, and it is a really well curated version of events that a lot of people saw and made sure that it is at least reminiscent of the real events. However, when it comes to games, the player gets to experience the things that the migrants have experienced, and so it is really easy for them to just do not do the emotions that those people go through justice and the difficulties they face.
Throughout our event, we played 3 various games that showed the experience of immigrants. These were The Borders, Papers, Please, and the waiting game. I think that especially the waiting game shows perfectly how it feels to be an immigrant, where it seems like the entire world doesn't want you to succeed. You desperately try all of your might to see the happy ending when it seems that it will not happen. You feel frustrated, you want to give up, the game tries to test you if you are even able to wait for the entire time. I was not able to do that. I think that it was very drastic experience, and I think that everyone who wants to have a bit insight into how migration works should play that game.
games as a way to represent migration. Well, some might consider this medium to perhaps be inappropriate, but I disagree. You see, even despite its relative youth, it is something different, and I think this difference is what might make it more appealing to certain people, because you see, the more representation there is across all types of media, the bigger the chance that someone is going to resonate with it. So for some people, a book might be more appropriate. For someone, maybe a movie will just strike them as this very appealing form. But I think that for some people, a game and being able to put yourself in the foot of a person in question is just what might resonate with them the most. Now, again, there is of course a problem that games, as any medium, have their own problems. So, for example, the experience of each player will perhaps, let's just say that it has a high chance of being different from one another. But I think that this personal flair can also be appealing sometimes. So, in my humble opinion, I think this was a very interesting experiment, and perhaps more of these sorts of productions should be attempted.
Can we compare the experience of crossing various borders? I think yes. Some of them are brutal, some of them are very long, some of them require money, and I think that many games shown different points of view and how we can solve problems of migration. The authors of the waiting game emphasize globalization of migration process. Do you agree with them? I think yes, because we have various people we can play, and we can see the process and their thoughts and how many problems they can have and how long it takes them. Can we actually feel the migrants playing such games? What and how can we feel owing to such games? In most of them, yes. I think the one where I don't feel what migrants feel or such migrants. I think the Papers, Please, because there we play as crossing guard. In the border and waiting game and other, these games are very immersive for me. What may be the purpose of these games? Well, of course, to show how hard it is for these people to live and to start their new lives, and because why they want to go away. And I think that most of them achieve this purpose very well. And the last question, what do you think about such a medium used to represent migrations? I think that it's a new medium, and I think that there are better mediums like films, documents, YouTube channels, because I think that by talking with these people we can know what they experienced, and by playing them we can only recollect their memories. And I think that games are not the best, but also not the worst way to achieve it.
During our event, we played some different games related to migration, and I think it's interesting how they had all different approach to who is an immigrant and from what perspective we can see this migration. Because in Papers, Please, we are not actually an immigrant, or a refugee, but instead we are a security border officer. So we can see the struggle of migration from this administrative perspective, which is really interesting because we can see all these different procedures and the different rules that security borders officer have to follow, and how difficult the decision is to refuse pass to a person who is really desperate for a better life. And on the other hand, in the game The Border, although this graphic was really not advanced, and it wasn't really a realistic experience, so to say, but it really gave us this opportunity to see how difficult it is to cross from one country to another, even if they share borders, because it's for some it's a life or death situation, especially in border USA-Mexico border, where there is not enough water. It's really it's a lot of heat. There's border officers who can just shoot you, and in this game about refugees from Syria, it was really interesting to really make these decisions for a person, because in a waiting game we didn't really have a decision. It's just storytelling, more of a book than a game, which is really interesting. But in the Syrian one, we could actually make a decision that could affect people we were responsible for, in a way, because we were the ones who could change their fate to bring them to a better life. We didn't manage, but it was really heartbreaking to see that they got stranded or they something bad happened to them because of our own bad decisions. So yeah, it was really eye-opening for me.